Razer recently updated their ProClick mouse to the version 2. So now we have a ProClick V2 and a ProClick V2 Vertical. Both of these mice are obviously featuring RGB, Synapse software, AI functionalities. Also, both of them are ergonomic. That's one of their main features, is the fact that they're a little more ergonomic than some of the other options that they offer. But not only that, it's also the battery life that we're looking at here. The V2 Vertical can last you up to 6 months on a single charge and up to 3.5 months on the standard edition V2. So without further ado, this is TK, and these are the ProClick V2 and the ProClick V2 Vertical. Let's check them out and see what makes them so special. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos for you on the channel. So in front of us I have both the V2 and the V2 Vertical. For the most part, all of the features that we have on the V2 and the V2 Verticals are identical. The main feature that just differs between the two is just sheer size and the battery that we have in here. This can go up to 6 months, this can go up to 3.5 months. Both of them are ergonomic. Both of them provide us a slightly different ergonomic experience, primarily because of the way the position of the mouse is. But the nice thing is that both of them are supported with Razer Chroma. Both support the 2.4 gigahertz technology as far with the built-in dongle that we have in here. We'll talk about that in a second. 3 different Bluetooth settings to be able to connect to multiple devices, as well as a wired connection. Even if the battery runs out, you can use it in wired mode and never miss a beat. You'll notice that one of the things obviously is that we also have a brand new AI functionalities built in here. Both of them are supported with Synapse 4, the brand new software that we have from Razer. The AI prompt does work on both. Again, very much the same. You'll notice here, AI prompt, up to 3.5 months and up to 6 months at what we have in here. RGB, of course, at its core, this is a Razer mouse, so there's no question there. Both of them are ergonomic, as I mentioned to you guys, and the versions that I have are both right-handed versions of the mouse, so just to be aware of that. As far as the feature set, you could definitely pause the video here and take a quick look. There is the 0G configuration here because the way the Vertical is actually positioned, we're going to talk about that in a second, but they'll work with PC, with Mac. Currently, only the V2 Vertical is compatible with Mac, but the V2 standard should be hopefully not too long from now. But software-wise, Synapse 4 is an early release for Macintosh. And here we have both of them. What you're seeing here essentially is 2 different configurations of the same mouse. They both, for the most part, if you kind of put them on the side, they look very similar. The clicking functionality, the button options, the mapping. The only thing is the positions of where they are. They're considered to be ergonomic because of the way the design is set. You notice a much bigger lip on the left side for a thumb rest, so our thumb is basically very much off the table. The sliding pads are very nice and pronounced on the bottom and on the top. We have an on and off switch, obviously the tracker. We also have the ability of switching between the 2.4 gigahertz and the 3 different Bluetooth profiles directly in here. Or you can connect it directly in the actual USB-C connection to be able to use it as a wired option. Nicely tethering here is they do also include a USB-A to USB-C cable, the A for your PC, the C directly in, and then of course they're covered. This is typically what we see with Razer. And those are going to be basically if we want to be able to use it as a wired connection. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the USB-A option here. I want to actually get into that a little bit when we start talking about that dongle. But when we switch over to the Razer, so here, the V2 Vertical, the ProClick V2 Vertical, you notice that the buttons are on the side, and there is an actual additional lip on the right side, as well as a much bigger thumb rest on the left. And that's because this one is more of a 0G configuration. On the left, when I'm holding it, my pinky doesn't actually touch the table and my thumb is fully resting on the mouse. And the arm configuration from a vertical standpoint, and I'll just put it on the side. If you just rest your arm on the table, you just put it down. Our arms never just sit 90 degrees like this. It automatically wants to kind of sit sideways and provide the best ergonomic set. If I just put the Pro V2 Click in here, it's the exact same configuration. So when I'm using it, it's mimicking that function. There is an adjustment period. If you started off with a standard mouse more closely to what the V2 standard mouse is, and you're going to the vertical edition, primarily because your arm is no longer kind of moving this way. So we're not moving in this configuration. We're moving more side, left, and then now we're moving kind of this in this area. The clicks are pretty much the same. The pointer, the button, the up and down, and they did move the back and forward here are slightly above and below because our thumb is pretty much resting here. So again, just sheer, I would say basically sheer ergonomics of the size and the way they're configured. The V2 Vertical, it will definitely be more ergonomic, more comfortable. Slight adjustment period, about maybe a day or so, but definitely much more comfortable for extended usage, especially when we're talking about productivity. But otherwise, very much a configurable experience using the Synapse software. Right now, the V2 Vertical is the only one supported on Mac, and I keep saying this because I've been using this with my MacBook Pro M4 series, so even the M series works really nice. The standard V2 is not currently, and hopefully will be very soon. Now, as far as the PCs that I've been using it, I've used it on my M4 MacBook Pro, and I've also used it on a Yoga i9, basically an Intel-based processor PC. And I've also used it on my Ryzen PC, which is my desktop gaming PC. So 2 Windows PCs and a Mac PC and a Mac OS PC. And they work perfectly. Now, again, keep in mind, if you connect the V2 without having the correct software support, it works like a regular mouse on a Macintosh, but it just doesn't have the chroma functionality because Synapse doesn't actually recognize it. The Synapse software only recognizes the V2 vertical, and you're able to customize it, as I'm showing you guys that quick clip there. You can customize the back and forward functionality on the button, and it works beautifully. And you can also customize it based on profiles of applications that you're using. For me, when it comes to editing, I do a lot more editing on my MacBook Pro than I do on my desktop PC, because I typically am more mobile when I'm creating content. So the main thing I'll probably say is the vertical works beautifully on Mac, and you can customize it. And the beautiful thing also that I love about it is it syncs up the profile of this mouse to the cloud. So meaning if I take this mouse and connect it to my Yoga Book and log in with my Razer account, it works directly, downloads my keys, everything is pretty much set. If I transfer it to my desktop PC, exact same experience, it recognizes it, downloads my presets. Very, very nice and very customizable. And of course, the ability of launching the AI prompt is currently basically where you press and hold on the button on an open space, and it alleviates some of the functions of having to open up a browser, turn on ChatGPT and try to figure out how to interact, or even do the same thing with Copilot. Everything is integrated and customizable, and I love the fact that it's simple, and Synapse 4 works great on Mac. When it comes on the PC side, and when I was using here directly with the Yoga Book, the V2 vertical worked great, except I felt like it's more when I started to game that I appreciated, or I favored it more the standard version when it came to gaming. For productivity, I definitely would go with the V2 vertical. Much more comfortable for extended usage. You can still game with it, there's no question. The tracking here, again, as I talked about, the what we have with the DPI is really good. It's just more of a form factor. When we're playing games on a PC, we typically can do work back and forth this way. On the actual vertical, you have to shift your arm. Your arm has to, it's hard to kind of lift. You have to kind of move it forward, where we have a little more give here when you're using a standard mouse. So that's really some of the preferences that I found myself shifting towards. Also, never having to really worry about battery. 3.5 months, the 6.5 or 6 months in here is very, very nice. I will say that is with the caveat that you do need to turn off the RGBs. It can't have a lot of bells and whistles and run for that extended amount of time. So it's kind of more of an endurance mode, and you're able to actually customize all of that directly within Synapse, even turning them off or customizing the colors as I'm sharing you guys right now. You can see the color scheme, the different options that you have in there, the different configurations, the colors, and even just customizing the applications. As I mentioned to you guys, all the buttons are remappable by application. As long as the app is in front of you, the system will recognize it and switch all the configurations for you. If you connect it to a PC and don't install Synapse, obviously none of that will work. These will just work as a regular mouse, and the button configuration is typically back and forward with the standard up and down. We are able to go not only up and down, but side by side, as well as clicking. Let's do a quick sound test for the actual clicks. As far as the feeling and the sound, they both are very responsive. Both of them provide us that nice pronounced click. Now, it is not as quiet as some of the other Razer mice that I've seen in the past or used, but definitely very nice and very, I would say I appreciate the response, knowing exactly that I've actually clicked on it. The V2 vertical seems to be a little bit quieter, not necessarily very much, but a little bit quieter. When it comes down to the scroll wheel, I find that the scroll wheel on the standard edition, much more responsive, much faster. And of course, the clicking on it is a little bit quieter. Although on the vertical, it's a little more tactile, very responsive. And again, you still have the ability of kind of customizing the same button. Now, each one of these mice will come with a USB-C to USB-A connector to allow us to actually use them in wired mode. The only thing, keep in mind, again, this is using a USB-A connector to a USB-C connector that connects directly into the mouse. So we're still looking at USB-A option, and I really hope we will start seeing maybe, just maybe a small converter or something that allows us to convert the A to C, providing the ability for people to use A ports if they have them, or use a C port if they need it. And of course, at the end of the day, the USB-C connector will work perfectly fine. A lot of people will agree with me on the fact that a mouse or a PC mouse is a very personal thing. It's our interface to the PC. It's kind of like the keyboard in a certain way, but we use it a lot more than the keyboard, because typically when you were browsing, reading emails, and so on, and we're not having to do any input into the keyboard, the mouse is where our hand sits all the time. So having the right mouse and having an ergonomic mouse makes it a much better experience in the extended realm of using a mouse. And I'm talking beyond just playing games. I'm talking about using it to play games, using it to be productive, doing some work. Again, for me, I produce content and I make content, but I still like to be able to play games. But I'm also a cross-platform type of a user. I use a PC and a Mac for all of my functionality. So my desktop is a PC system that runs basically just Chroma and I can install all the software that I want. But the main thing about the desktop experience is that it just doesn't move with me, right? So there's that movability function. That's why my Mac is becoming more of my travel editing rig. And it's been like that for quite some time. And finding the right mouse that works on both the systems and works quite well on both is a little bit hard. Now, Synapsys does a very nice job of syncing profiles on the server side if you log into your account from both your systems. So let's say I create some custom shortcuts on my Mac here, and I'm connecting it directly to my V2 vertical, and I transfer it to my PC. It automatically downloads the profile for me because it's connected to the same account. So my DaVinci Resolve shortcuts will work just the same if I want to be able to use the mouse across two systems. Very nice, very customizable, and I love the fact that everything works great. The battery life that they're advertising, I will say, is advertised with some caveats. You do need to turn off the lights. If you like RGB and you like using them with RGB, and depending which version of the RGB and how bright the LEDs are going to be, then I probably will say the battery life will not be up to 6 months on the vertical. You're probably getting more closer to about maybe 3 months or so. Just again, you're using more of the functionality, therefore it will run not as long. But if you use it just as a standard vertical mouse or using over Bluetooth, not a problem at all. I've had it charged at 100% for about a week now, and it doesn't even say that it's below 100%, which is weird. And I've done at least a couple of sessions of editing with this, about a couple of hours on this, on and off on the Mac. Again, my vertical one is primarily now 100% on my MacBook, and my standard V2 just sits directly in here on my desktop PC, and it works great. If it runs low, again, they do give you a cable. You can plug it in, use it as a wired connection. You could just use a standard C-to-C cable if you have an extra one laying around, and it'll work as a wired mouse. Perfectly fine, charges up, and when it's ready, you can jump back on. So there's never a situation where you're going to stop using it because the battery ran out. And the nice thing is that it actually does use a standard USB-C cable connection on the front. So both of them will work very nicely, and both have the connectors in the front. I've used them on my PC, on my mobile, on the YogaBook i9 that I have on loan from Lenovo to be able to test out as well, and on my desktop PC, and it works great. The only thing I probably will say is if you do have it happen when you first installed Synapse 4 and you've had Synapse 3 installed and you notice maybe that the mouse isn't being recognized, uninstall Synapse 4 and then of course uninstall the mouse, restart your PC and reinstall Synapse 4. It's going to work perfectly. The mouse gets recognized, the profile runs, and of course log in with your account to get the syncing functionality. Again, I love that having it, that I transfer from my PC to my Mac and my mouse works exactly the same in DaVinci Resolve. And you can customize those profiles as many apps as you want. As long as it's sitting in front of you, the profile on the mouse automatically switches to it and you're able to jump back and forth with the button configuration. And I love all of that. Is just simple, it's easy, it runs in the background, and it's effortless. Of course, if you want to be able to sync up your Chroma and all of that, there is a whole bunch of other software that Razer offers to do so. For me, I installed just Synapse 4 on my PC, on both the Mac as well as the Lenovo. I do have a much larger, I would say a much bigger set of accessories connected to my desktop here, like my Leviathan as well as the mouse, and I like to be able to basically sync up my RGBs when I'm playing games. So. With that being said, I do want to say thank you very much to Razer for allowing me to check out the ProClick V2 as well as the ProClick V2 Vertical. The Vertical is the one that originally attracted me to take a look at this and ask if I was able to kind of get a chance to review it. And they sent me the standard one primarily because they're very similar, and I understand the benefit of both. And I also understand that for me, I wouldn't be using both for the exact same experience. And I'll say this at the last, as the last thing here. If you're looking for productivity, for extended hours of usage, not just gaming, I think the V2 Vertical is the right mouse for you. But from an all-around good experience and really good at gaming functionalities, again, I feel like that the V2 is definitely going to hit it, and it's going to hit it out of the park for you guys. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I will see you in the next video.